What were you making before and like what are you actually generating now monthly?
Previously, we was making only about few £100s each month. First month we had been about £800, and then currently now I would say we're on track to earn probably around 4K in commissions by the end of next month.
So tell me who you are. How old are you? Where are you from?
My name is Malique, 20 years old, and I'm from London.
Awesome. What did your day to day actually look like before getting into high ticket sales?
I was like any other normal university student, taking part of normal degenerate activities, parties, waking up late, and that normal stuff, really.
Got you. And so, like, how would you have described yourself at that point? Like, aside from being a degenerate, if someone asked you what you did for work?
I suppose, well, at that point, I was just working a normal part-time job in a fast food restaurant. So it was a regular job, but I knew I always wanted to do a bit more with my time.
So, what really brought your attention to, high ticket sales specifically? Because there's ecom, there's trading, there's a lot of things that you could have done.
For me, it was mainly the location freedom that I found a big aspect. Being able to work from wherever you are, even if since it could be done like on your phone, being able to be at the gym, still working, walking around, still working, being at home. That was definitely like the most desirable factor for me.
Yeah, no, I think that that's definitely something for a lot of people. They want to be able to work from home and, travel and do whatever they want, even living in a place that has a lower cost of living and being able to save more. So, I guess what was like the main problem that you were dealing with when you came across my content?
When I came across your content, I had a few different problems, but they all mainly centered around the fact that high ticket sales is quite a closed off community and everyone essentially knows everyone. So being new to the industry, I really struggled with building my network and finding places for me to essentially just progress and grow my skill level.
I got you. So, like, how long had that been going on for before you found me?
Okay, so that would have been about 7 months before I came across your page.
That's a long time of kind of staying stagnant. So, what did you try, before like starting to work with me? Any courses, content?
Before working with you, I essentially tried everything that was like free content. So it was just going through a lot of pages, Instagram reels, the YouTube videos, comment sections for tips, things like that. And then I did look into a few different coaching mentorships. I invested in some, but struggled seeing results, mainly because obviously with the free content, a lot of it was generic, which kind of makes sense because they wouldn't give out everything for free. And then with a lot of their courses or communities, it was easy to get lost as just another person in the community and really an individual that actually needs help, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course, I totally get that. So, I guess how was that affecting you beyond just, the money side? I'm sure that those months the money side wasn't good, but how was it affecting like your confidence and how did you really feel about how your life was going?
In terms of confidence, it definitely become demotivating, especially because it was something that I'd given a lot of my time and energy to, as well as actual money to as well, for about the last 7 months. So it was starting to become a bit demotivating. I started to question whether I'd actually end up seeing results or whether this was something I'd actually be able to excel in.
And I know that we had a couple of, extensive conversations before you actually decided to join, but what was your biggest concern? Like, what do you feel like was holding you back from taking that step?
I think the biggest concern before taking that step was essentially because I had invested in a few mentorships and courses before, was whether or not this was just going to be essentially just another course on Instagram or just another mentorship that as soon as I invest and, the payment is successful, then I'll just be just another person, replies will get slower, that sort of thing. But I think actually, like you said, because we actually were able to have a few calls, that was something that definitely gave me the confidence that maybe this is a person that will actually like take the time to actually help me
Yeah.
essentially progress.
Yeah, I'm glad that, I could be that person for you. I know that there are a lot of people who just kind of see prospects as a money grab and they don't actually want to help. But, what you put out into the world is always going to be what comes back to you. Did you think that it might not work for you, like specifically? Obviously there was a lot of hesitation that we faced.
Yes, I did start to become a bit worried, like whether like high ticket sales would actually work for me. And I was kind of in a 50-50 state because I felt like I'd given it so much time. I didn't want to feel like I was giving up right before I was
Yeah.
actually going to be able to see that progress. But then I was also, the other half of me was also like, I've given it so much time, there's no point in giving it any more time and essentially just wasting it. So I was a bit split, but I think, getting in contact with you and actually being able to see that one-to-one support was there and there was that clear communication, that was something that made me essentially just think, let me just give it a bit more time, which I'm really glad that I did.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you did too. We need more people like you in this space. So, what you said reminded me of something that Charlie Morgan said is like sometimes, you're pushing so hard, right? You're about to reach the top and then you give up right before, even though it's like right behind the door. Maybe it's a week away, maybe it's a month away, but maybe you've been working for like a year. You see no progress and then you give up right before it happens for you.
Yeah, and that was essentially one of my biggest fears as well. If I gave up too soon, I would always essentially just even regret of not knowing what could have been. Because essentially the time was going to pass regardless. If I
Right.
gave up, the months of June and July, August were still going to come. The only difference is I wouldn't have known what results I could have achieved.
So, how do you feel like you're doing now?
I definitely feel like I'm doing better now. The main thing I'm happy to say that I've achieved is I have a lot more direction and a clearer path for progression. I felt like one thing that can be very demotivating, not only in high tech sales, but in general, is not actually being sure where you're going or what the next few months are going to look like. Whereas now I feel like I have a much clearer plan and feel a lot more confident with achieving more of my goals as well.
Yeah, confidence is everything. So I guess, when we spoke about the price initially, a lot of people are hesitant. So what was really going through your head when that was a topic of conversation?
To be honest, when we spoke about the price, I was just a typical prospect. I rolled my eyes when we spoke about the price and I thought, what's the point in doing this? Here we go again, I was just like, is this worth it? And again, I was in a bit of a 50-50 state because I was thinking, am I just dumping more money in something that's not going to work or is this going to be the turning point? But I think when we spoke about the price, the part that gave me the confidence to actually fully invest was the fact that at least for me, it didn't feel like I was being closed or cash collected in a sense. And it felt like you actually listened to the situation that I was in and was actually able to help me essentially get to where I wanted to get to. And so it just gave me a lot of confidence in that sense. And it also just built up our trust. And so I essentially just trusted the future, I suppose.
That's something that we should be doing all across, the board is making sure that the prospect feels heard, especially since you're getting into closing now and building that trust and building that value so that, they do trust you. They feel like you're actually guiding them because transformation over transaction is extremely important.
Yeah, definitely.
So walk me through, what the first week of working with me really looked like what were we actually working on?
So I feel like it'd be hard to say what the first week actually looked like. And even though that might sound like a negative, I think that was actually the greatest positive. And the reason I say that is because with one-to-one support, obviously everyone's first week looks so different. Now I'd been in a situation, I'd been working in high tech sales for about 7 months. So knew quite a lot about the space, but didn't have a lot of practice in what I knew about. And I just remember the first week being so much different to anything else I had joined previously because it felt more like a friendship instead of a coach and student relationship, if that made sense. Because we was able to just essentially just work around both of our schedules and just find the time to go over essentially what I was struggling, whatever it was I was struggling with. At the time, I know that was me getting into phone setting and building my confidence over the phone and building and just essentially improving my word tracks, improving my tonality and things like that. And I think I remember essentially just being able to just message you and you would actually respond. And although that sounds like such a given, I think in the space actually, a lot of people do offer 24/7 DM access or communication, but most of the times you can message them on Monday and they won't respond till Saturday. But I remember if anything, the latest you would respond would be like an hour. That would be considered like your slowest response time. Typically, it was within just a few minutes. That was something that I definitely was very grateful for throughout the whole training process.
And everyone is always on their phones. Of course, people have calls and maybe they're busy, but you're a priority. Making sure that you are actually succeeding is a priority. So, what was like one thing that really shifted in your thinking the most? Like, was there a moment where something kind of clicked for you to get you out of that, maybe this isn't going to work for me to this is working?
Was the speed at which I was able to start seeing results. I remember we had a few calls about me improving my phone setting. You gave me the resources and guidelines. And then not only did you give me the resources and guidelines to learn, but you also gave me the tools, guided me to the right communities where I could actually practice these. And that was what really not only boosted my skill set, but boosted my confidence because I thought if I've been able to do this in a week or 2 weeks with you, then imagine where I could now be 6 months down the line because it felt like that progress that I'd seen in those 1 to 2 or 3 weeks was more than 3 times what I've been able to do in the last 6 months.
I love that. I've seen that too, in an enormous extent, because to be honest, when we first got on the phone, it wasn't looking too hot for the phone setting, but it was something new, and you're
Yeah.
never gonna be good when you're starting out something new. Like you can think about a sport or learning how to play an instrument. It's never easy at first, but the more time and the more reps that you actually put in, it gets better, it gets easier, and it starts to flow. So over those 2 weeks that you were really putting the reps in, I definitely saw like an amazing difference, and I'm very proud of you for that. So I guess, was there any point in working with me that you felt like it was kind of hard or you questioned if it was working? And if so, like what actually kept you going?
I wouldn't say there was any point that felt like it was hard. I suppose as well, the reason I say that is obviously because it might sound a bit cliche, like, oh no, this was actually such a great coach. There wasn't anything hard about it, but it was mainly the fact that you yourself was in a relatable position. I think you being a similar age to myself was just something that was like, actually been able to do what I want to do and isn't a ridiculously far away person. I feel like with a lot of coaches that are on Instagram, they're not very relatable anymore because they mainly just focus on where they are now and what they're doing now. And they're just saying, oh, like, you follow me, then you can get here. But I think the difference with you is whenever I did feel discouraged or felt like it wasn't going well, it was like, no, like we both have the same 24 hours in a day. We've both been on this earth for 20, 21 years. So there's not anything ridiculous that you've done that meant I couldn't do. And obviously, if I'm learning from you, then of course, with the reps that I'm putting in, the results will just naturally follow. And I think that's just what kept me going.
I love that. So, it's not about if you had a bad day, it's about what you do, what you learn from having a bad day, and what you actually do to improve it. Because you could have the same hard day tomorrow, or you could sit back and you could think, like, this is what went wrong. This is what I can actually improve on, and this is where I want to get. It's like that stupid reel that's like, complete the cycle today or the loop repeats tomorrow. So tell me what happened. Like, what results did you actually get from working with me, and in what time frame did that happen?
It all actually happened quite quickly, to be fair. We've only been working together for about 3-4 weeks. And the biggest result, obviously, besides from income, was people I was actually able to meet. And I remember before meeting you, my biggest issue was network and actually having that valuable skill set. And after working with you for those 3 or 4 weeks, that's definitely something I feel like I have now. Because not only was I able to land a good role, but I was able to put my skill set actually into place now. So being able to now phone set and actually start taking closing calls, I feel like that's not only giving me a good income now, but it's also set me up for the future, because as I continue to put the work in, I'll only continue to get better, and obviously that will only result in large commission checks.
100%. So if you're comfortable, what were you making before, and like what are you actually generating now monthly?
Previously, we was making only about few £100s each month. I think the best month would have been about £800. So that was obviously went into me being discouraged and actually thinking, like, is this gonna work? Because every second scroll in high ticket sales on Instagram, you see the next person just hit 10K or the next person just hit 100K. And then currently now, I would say we're on track to earn probably around 4K in commissions by the end of next month. Obviously, because we are actually able to be on a good roll instead of just being another sales rep on that role that's just getting lost in the pipeline. But we're actually a key figure of that role, and we're able to implement our skills to actually get rewarded for them.
100%. And that's a big issue that happens in the space. It's like the income screenshot problem, because a lot of people, they're going to take their cherry picked result, they're going to post it online. Maybe it's not even their result. Maybe it's completely fabricated by AI, but you shouldn't always put what you see. So beyond money, like what else has actually changed for you? Your confidence, your lifestyle, how you actually feel about your future?
Obviously, okay, yeah, with finances aside, I feel like because I suppose it goes hand in hand with confidence, but just more belief. I think one thing a lot of people struggle with in the early stages is believing in themselves. And a lot of people choose to just externalize all of their problems and issues that are going on. But I think now that I made that first step where I was actually able to invest in myself and see the results of that investment, it's definitely like, okay, wow, like it's definitely a big eye opener to show that anything actually is possible. And the best bet you're ever going to place in life is always going to be on yourself, because you actually have so much control over how it plays out.
That's true. And if you don't believe in yourself, how can you really get a prospect to believe in you or what you're doing?
Exactly.
So what has this actually opened up for you that you didn't feel like was even possible before?
I think touched on it a little bit, but I think the biggest thing that's obviously opened up is now the progression. I feel like right now the progression is essentially endless. I couldn't imagine ever being in the position that I was before I started working with you. So currently we're now phone setting and closing, but I can also see progression into management. And then after that, essentially the sky's the limit. I couldn't imagine going back to a situation where I'm not sure who to go to or how I'm even going to land a role.
Yeah, so let's just touch on that quickly. You said, maybe even getting into management. So, what do you feel like the next 12 months actually looks like for you? Or ideally, what would you like it to?
Okay, well, I feel like if we break it down then, the next 6 months, I'll definitely be closing full time, which would be a great step to make, not only financially, but also just having the ability to gain so much free time as well and actually enjoy a lot of life. And then in the next 12 months, so I suppose 6 months after that, I can definitely see myself in a management position with the current role that I'm on, because since it's such a close-knit team and not one of those teams that I know a lot of sales reps are on with 15 different setters and 10 closes where you're just lost in the pattern, because it's actually a close-knit and lean team, I could definitely see us growing as a team, we've already started planning in-person meetups, and then moving into management there would just be essentially just a dream come true.
That would be awesome. Let's get you there. So, if someone was watching this right now and they are in the exact same position that you were in, what would you say to them?
If they were in the exact same position I was in, the one thing I would say to them is an analogy I heard a few weeks ago, and that was essentially there's two best times to plant a tree. The first best time was 10, 15 years ago, and the second best time is now. And I feel like with high ticket sales, it being a high income skill, it would be the best thing you could essentially invest in ever, because not only have I seen it change my income, but also my internal confidence and belief. And the only person who's going to affect the result of it is you. Why there's so many people nowadays who play the lottery week in, week out and still have complete faith that one day they're going to win it, even though you have zero control. And the chance of you winning it is literally less than 1%. Whereas with high ticket sales, yes, a lot of people would argue and externalize it comes down to luck or it comes down to X, Y, and Z. But even if that is the case, at least 90% of it's in your control. And you wouldn't take a bet where you're 90% likely to win. So if you are kind of questioning whether this is something you want to get into or join, then I wouldn't really say it's a matter of you questioning this, but I suppose you just need to question yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then you actually will.
That's 100% right. So, I guess, is there anything that you wish you would have known before joining that would have made the decision easier for you?
I suppose one thing I wish I knew before joining is I wish there was a call like this, really. I wish I was able to see someone essentially just explain where they were and how they got there. But I remember when I actually did reach out to you, the main reason I reached out to you was just because you seemed like a genuine person and you weren't one of those stereotypical just course sellers or selling a community. And so that just built my trust in you. And then I think now to anyone out there that is thinking like, oh, why should I join this training? This call should just speak for itself, essentially, and should be the reason that you do.
Yeah, thank you. So, knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
Absolutely. If I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have wasted 6 months trying to do it by myself or go to all these other course sellers. One thing with high ticket sales is that, comparison can definitely be the thief of joy. And I think that is so easy to fall into with high ticket sales. But at the end of the day, you just have to remember everyone's on their own journey. So what took me 7 months to get to or 8 months to get to could take someone 2 months to get to. But at the end of the day, once you get there, you're not going to really care about how long it took. You're just going to be happy that you're here now, and everything you learned in the journey is what allowed you to get here, essentially.
Right. We can't, really do anything about what happened in the past. The only thing that we can control is, what we do now with the people that we have around us, what we do now with the knowledge. Dwelling on the past, it can get down on you. It can discourage you even more, because it's like, oh, this person got here in 3 months, but it took me 7 months. That doesn't matter.
Yeah. Once you do reach that goal that you were dying to reach, you'll just look back at it and think like, can't believe I thought this would never happen, essentially. And you'll be grateful that you went through that journey, because even though you might not feel it now, one thing that I've noticed is even on the bad roles that I felt like I was on, I didn't earn any commissions on. You learn so much in terms of experience, and which will always take you further moving forward.
It's like you said, sky's the limit. There's nothing
Exactly.
holding you back except for yourself. So, I'm really curious, like, what do you feel like your life would have looked like had you never gotten into high ticket sales?
If I never got into high ticket sales, I think I'd be ashamed to say it would just be the typical university student. I feel like up until now, everything I'd done was just the generic handbook. You finish school, you have college, and then you move on to university at 18. And then after that, you leave university after 3 years, get a normal 9 to 5 job, and essentially just stay stuck in that. To be honest, I'm so glad I found high ticket sales, because by the time I do finish university, I couldn't imagine getting a 9 to 5 right now.
Yeah, the gateway to hell, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. So what are you actually in university for? What are you studying, and what do you actually plan to do with that?
And so right now, I'm actually I just finished my second year of university. My course is 4 years, but the third year they allow us to take a year out to essentially get some real world experience in the work life. But obviously for me, we're going to be doing remote sales and high ticket sales. So that's what I'm currently doing now. And essentially just been doing high ticket sales on the side so far up until now as a bit of like a side hustle. But now that we have this year out, this is why we're looking to really take it seriously in terms of progressing and moving into closing full time and moving into management.
So let's log in, let's make it happen. You know, the main person that you have to blame if something doesn't succeed is you, right? Because we can give you the tools, we can give you the structure, we can give you the one-on-one coaching, but it all matters what you do with it. So we have a year. Let's just see what we can do in that time.
It's definitely going to be an interesting year, and I'm excited to see what outcomes we have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so literally while we're recording this, it seems like my offer owner actually wants me to move into closing full time. Obviously, because they don't actually have any sales experience, like they would literally message me mid call saying, "What do I say to this objection?" So right now I was doing setting and partly closing, so essentially full cycle. But they've actually just asked me like how flexible I am with my time and possibly just move into closing. And then obviously if a set comes in, I'll be the one helping them with things like that.
And that's awesome. So how long did that actually take you?
That literally took less than a month, like 3 weeks, probably even closer to 2.
Awesome. Thank you.